Right here? Okay. We believe, is that right where we are?
Yes. Yep.
We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. There's that word. Circle that word, allergy. Right? And then we're going to highlight the next two lines. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Right? Now, that again, I got to tell you guys that many alcoholics can drink safely for years. They can drink safely for years, but what happens is they drink themselves into alcoholism and they develop that allergy, right? Me, the first time that I stole some beers out of my parents' case, it was Kegelbrau from Cold Spring. I kept going back and I drank until I threw up and blacked out. So for me, the allergy presented itself the very first time I drank. For others, it might be years. It might be 5 years, might be 10, might be, but what difference does it make, right? When we come into these rooms, we're all in the same place and we all have the same physical allergy. These allergic types can never, circle that word, never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Next to what I just read there, those 4 lines, write step 1, powerless. We're going to see a lot of definitions of step 1 as we go through the first 4 chapters and step 2. But that's step 1 right there. Okay, let's highlight this next sentence. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. You've got to stop for me. You've got to stop for the kids. Yeah, that doesn't work with us, man. I mean, it simply doesn't work. And we're going to see why as we look at the doctor's opinion. It won't work. Please, you've got to stop for the children. Please, right? The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must, circle that must, have depth and weight. We're going to highlight the next 3 lines. In nearly all cases, their ideals must, circle must, be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. Okay, so what those 3 lines that we highlighted, right next to that, write step 2. That is step 2, right? When I first came into these rooms and I saw these people, I got 5 years, I got 10 years, I got this. I'm like, you guys didn't drink like me. There's no way you could have that much time. I simply didn't believe it when I first walked in. But you know what? The people that took me through this book were just like me. They drank like me. Their lives were out of control. I mean, jail, treatments. And that's when I saw that they had changed their lives, I got a glimmer of hope that maybe something could happen for me too. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work, and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel, after many years of experience, that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. Right? So that means we're going out there, altruistic. We're doing this on our own time, and we have no profit motive whatsoever for going out and trying to help other people recover. So let's highlight the next 4 lines. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false, right? That's where I thought everybody drank like me, right? Because if you didn't drink like me, I didn't drink with you. A lot of alcoholics, they get a little bit offended, and they say, I drink because I like the taste. I like the taste of beer. I like the taste of those mixed drinks, you know. And I got to tell you, from the first time I had those Kegel Brau's, I really liked the taste of beer as well. I really did. You know, I also like the taste of Coca-Cola. But I never did sit down and drink a case and a half of Coca-Cola, right? Because that beer did something for me, that whiskey did something for me that Coca-Cola did not do for me. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Okay? Highlight, they are restless, irritable, and discontented. Just highlight that little phrase there. Unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. Right? So, next to that restless, irritable, and discontented, you can write dry drunk, still an asshole. That's what I got here. That's what they had me write. So, you know, people, and I was like that, guys. And even when I went to a lot of meetings, I got off the sauce, right? I got off the sauce or the pills or the gambling or whatever it was, and I did not work these steps. I was mean. I was ornery. I would still lie. I'd still steal. And you better get out of my way. I was not working these steps. I was a dry drunk, man. Dry drunk. Unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. So that seemingly without harm. We see other non-alcoholic people taking these drinks and they're just fine, right? Nothing happens to them. And we're like, by golly, you know, they can do it. I can do it too. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, so again, that craving is after we take that first drink, we're going to highlight to the end of the paragraph here. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and I'm going to add a few more, and over and over. And unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery, right? So let's underline psychic change and right under it write change in my thinking / spiritual awakening. Change in my thinking / spiritual awakening. You know, and we're going to see other words like spiritual experience, personality transformation, but just write change in my thinking / spiritual awakening. And where it says this is repeated over and over, okay, right next to that, let's write step 1, powerless again. Because we keep doing the things over and over. And that's what the word chronic means. So if you're a chronic alcoholic like I was, you would keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's all it means, chronic. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, underline, the very same person who seemed doomed, just that little phrase right there, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. Okay, highlight. The only effort necessary being that required, circle required, because that's a must, that's another word for must, to follow a few simple rules. So after a few simple rules, write 12 steps. And that is what we're going to do here. We are going to actually follow the instructions in this book. We're going to do the work, and we're going to see what happens, right? I came in and out of these rooms for 20 years, and I more meetings. Sober softball team, show up early, make coffee. But I never worked the steps. And you know what, guys? I never got a lick of relief until finally I was so miserable and so desperate that I decided I was going to do anything. I was going to try anything one last time before I exited this world. And that is following the instructions in this book. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal. Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must, circle must, I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me, circle must. Faced with this problem, okay, highlight that little phrase, if a doctor is honest with himself, he must, there's another must, sometimes feel his own inadequacy. So next to that, we're going to write, sometimes doctors can't help, right? Maybe they can tell us to go to AA, right? But sometimes doctors can't help. You know, my sponsor had me write doctors can't help, but I've amended it a little bit. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels, highlight, that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. Just that little phrase there, and off to the left, right, higher power. Higher power. Right? Now, we saw when we read the history last time that if you come in here, and there's a lot of people that, you know, hey man, I can't take that God stuff, man. Don't want any of that. So we saw when we read in about the history that you come in here and you got a problem with God, you can use this group or the groups as your higher power to start out with. There's nothing wrong with that. Though the aggregate, that means the total, though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole, right? Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach, right? And I mean, they're talking, and we'll cover this a little bit more later on, I think in chapter 2, about the hard drinker versus the real alcoholic. I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. Circle mental control, and somewhere near there, write willpower. Willpower. Okay, and we're going to just go ahead and highlight to the bottom of the page there. I have had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal, which has to be settled on a certain date favorable to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomenon of craving, underline that too, at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, my God, I got this job. I start this job in a week, right? And I go 4 days without drinking. I have 5 days I don't have a drink. You know, the day before, I'm just going to, you know what? I'm just going to have a couple of drinks. God darn it, I deserve it. I've been a good guy this last week. I take a couple of drinks, and all of a sudden, I don't show up my first day of work, right? My boss would say, we always had a sales meeting on Saturday morning. John, if you show up drunk one more time, you're fired. You're out of here, right? So, you know, I didn't drink on Monday, not on Tuesday. I went the whole week, golly, and Friday night came and I said, my God, I'm just going to have one. I showed up drunk and I got fired, right? The phenomenon of craving takes over. But we're also going to talk about that obsession of the mind, because it's a twofold disease. I mean, if we just had a physical craving of our body, we could pass the basket. I'd say, never take another drink, guys. Everybody throw in a buck. See you later, and we'd never have to meet again, right? But we've also got an obsession up here, right? Up here, that's we get restless, irritable, and discontent when we're not drinking, and our brain from time to time is going to fool us into thinking that it's okay to take that first drink, right? That's the obsession of the mind. And again, once we take that first drink, that starts the phenomenon of craving, right? If it was just a physical allergy, we'd be done. These men were not drinking to escape, they were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. Again, that's after they started. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving, which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice. So underline that. Next to that, you can write suicide, right? Rather than continue to fight. I was at that point. Since I've been sober these 5 years, I've seen more people die than I have my entire life. One guy, the judge told him, he said, "You're going to come every other day, and you're going to pee in a cup for us. And if we find that you're drinking, we're going to put you in the slammer. Right? You are going to jail. Right? I don't know, 6 months or whatever it was." That guy, 2 beautiful children and a wife, went out to his garage, one morning, he didn't go to work. He ended up hanging himself because he knew he was going to lose, and he couldn't take it. Right? That's what we do. This is a deadly disease, guys. I don't want anybody to forget that. You know, most alcoholics don't make it into the rooms of AA. So a lot of them end up dead. A lot of them end up in prison. A lot of them end up in institutions. And even those who make it into AA, even those who make it, the vast majority do not get sober because the vast majority are not doing these steps. So we read last week that of those who come to AA and really try, 50% recovered at once. This is in the old days, and that means work the steps. 25% more sober up after some relapses. So back in the old days, we had a success rate in AA of 75%. We can't get anywhere near that today. We're lucky if we get 10% of people that walk into these rooms. How many new people do you guys see come in and, they're around for a little bit and then you never see them again, right? Now, with me, with my personal experience, with those people that I've sponsored and those people that have gone through Code Blue, the ones that have done the steps, I'll tell you what, the men that I've sponsored, of those that have done all 12 steps with me, going through the book on a one-to-one basis, I've got a 100% success rate, right? Of those that were unwilling to do their fourth and fifth step, or they didn't want to do, they're not going to make those amends. You know what? I don't know, because they disappeared and I never see them again, so I don't know what they're doing. But if we work these steps, guys, we can have a new life, man. And I want everybody to know that meetings are super important. They're super important. But fellowship is not going to give you the spiritual awakening, the psychic change, the personality transformation that we need to recover. The meetings are there to support us while we have this life-changing experience through working the steps. And thank God that finally I became willing one day to do whatever these guys told me. The classification of alcoholics seems most difficult and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. Okay, so we're gonna list 5 types of alcoholic, right? There are, of course, the psychopaths. You can write type 1, circle that off to the left. You can write type 1, who are emotionally unstable. We are all familiar with this type. They are always going on the wagon for keeps. They are over-remorseful and make many resolutions. This time it's for real, but never a decision. Underline never a decision, and next to it write step 3. Right? And making a decision, right? That's as easy as saying, I'm just going to try the rest of these doggone steps. That's all it is, right? When it comes down to it. You can put a little line under make many there, and under that write type 2. Then there is the type of man who is unwilling to admit he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. Okay? You put a little line after environment, and then right where you wrote type 2, write denial. That's a denial.
Which one was type 2 again?
Yeah.
Type 1 I don't really have, that's just psychopath. Type 2 is, there is the type of man who is unwilling to admit he cannot take a drink.
Thanks.
Yep. He plans various ways of drinking, changes his brand or environment. They put a little slash after environment because the next one then is type 3. Right, so type 2 is denial. There is the type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. Okay, so that's type 3, and you can write allergy has gone, ? God got it, I got 90 days. There's no way I'm an alcoholic, right? There's no way. I've been sober for 90 days. Not only am I not an alcoholic, but I deserve a drink, right? You take that drink and the allergy's not gone, right? It kicks in and kicks your ass. Okay, so you can put a little line after danger. And there is the manic depressive type, that's type 4. You can write bipolar. There is the manic depressive type who is perhaps the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Okay? Now, this next one, so you can draw a line after written. I always thought that I was a type 5. I'm sure there's a lot of type 5s in this room. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect, except in the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people, right? That's type 5. So we are going to highlight the entire next paragraph because it's so important. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence, right? So, I think what they're saying here, right? We've got these different types of alcoholics, right? So what they're saying, let's say that everybody in this room here, God forbid, took a couple of drinks, right? Everybody in this room took a couple of drinks, right? One of us is going to be over there in the corner going, oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, the world doesn't treat me right, right? That one guy's going to do that, right? Somebody else, right? Carolyn, she'll be up on the table, laughing, whooping, hollering it up, right? Another two of us are going to be over in the corner making the moves on each other. And two other guys are going to be in the other corner beating the hell out of us, right? So we're all going to react differently to alcohol, except what are we all going to do? Every single one of us is going to be looking for that second, third, fourth drink, right? That is the phenomenon of craving. This immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debate, right? The boiling pot of debate. Much has been written pro and con, but among physicians, highlight this last two lines. The general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed. I'm supposed to crack my book like that. So they're telling us that most of us are doomed. And you know what? I've tried to work with people. This one fella, his parents have a restraining order out against him. He can't go to his parents' house. He's got two daughters in grade school. They refuse to speak with him. Shows up drunk again. He's got a union job, but he's this close to getting fired, right? He's soiled every place that you consider lie in his fiance's house. He's got all of these things, and he has no willingness whatsoever. She wants me to work with this guy and fix him, and you know what? I keep telling her that if he's not willing to do something, there's nothing that I can do. And most alcoholics are of that variety that they're doomed. You know, if they don't have that mustard seed of willingness, we're not going to be able to help them, man. It's not going to happen. So, you know, some of us have to be within an inch of death, right? Or completely homeless and broke and in jail before we get that little bit of willingness. Other people, remember we talked last week about how they're changing the stories around in the book with each edition, right? Thank God other people are getting into here with a much higher bottom. They don't have to go through all of that crap that some of us need to do, right? That's why they change the stories, because the bottoms are coming up, AA's becoming known, there's more women. That's why they're changing these stories, and thank heavens, not all of us. The first 100 people that wrote this book were of the hopeless variety, just like me, and I really hope nobody has to get to that point. If you can get here and you can do these steps, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through that stuff. So the general opinion is that most chronic alcoholics are doomed, with or without AA. What is the solution? Perhaps I can answer this best by relating one of my experiences. Okay, so we can, off to the right, we can write Hank Parkhurst. He's going to talk about a guy named Hank Parkhurst, Parkhurst, and he wrote To the Employers. Hank Parkhurst, To the Employers. That's what the doctor's talking about. About 1 year prior to this experience, a man was brought in to be treated for chronic alcoholism. He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. Okay, the doctor thought he had wet brain, right? I mean, back in the day, what they did with us is they put us in they committed us for alcoholic insanity, and many of us were so far gone that you strap on a diaper and throw them into the nut house, right? And this guy was right there. Recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. He had lost everything worthwhile in life and was only living, one might say, to drink. Job, wife, kids, everything, home, everything gone. Highlight this next little phrase. He frankly admitted and believed that for him there was no hope. Okay, of course, next to that we're going to write step one. Step one. No hope. Following the elimination of alcohol, so they put him through detox, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. Underline this next little sentence. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. Okay, right next to that, write the steps. The steps, right? 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name and partly recognized his features, but there all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I talked with him for some time, but was not able to bring myself to feel that I had known him before. To me, he was a stranger, and so he left me. A long time has passed with no return to alcohol. So put those little, whatever you call them, next to that whole paragraph, off to the right, explanation of psychic change, right? That's an explanation of a psychic change, right? I mean, this guy was blubbering. They thought he had wet brain. Couldn't control his bodily functions. I mean, they thought this guy was done, right? And then we read that he is now brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. Simply amazing. And he didn't recognize him. Funny enough, when I got off the sauce, you drink a quart a day, it does funny things to your face, right? One of the other benefits of when you get off the sauce is you get your face back. When I need a mental uplift, I often think of another case brought in by a physician prominent in New York. We're going to highlight the next sentence. The patient had made his own diagnosis and, deciding his situation hopeless, had hidden in a deserted barn determined to die. On the left, you can write step one. There he is, step one again. Suicide is the only way out. I can't put my family through any more of this, man. And I don't want to put myself through any more of it. It's just going to be a lot easier if I'm dead. Their life will be better and I won't have to suffer anymore, right? Off to the right, you can write Fitzmayo, Fitzmayo. And he wrote Our Southern Friend, page 208. Fitzmayo, Our Southern Friend, page 208, and page 55. They talk about him a little bit on page 55 as well. Fitzmayo, Our Southern Friend, page 208, and page 55. So here's another one, right? Another guy. He was rescued by a searching party and in desperate condition brought to me. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment a waste of effort, unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower, underlying willpower, to resist the impulse to drink. Okay? He knew it. I mean, he got detoxed and he said, Doc, I know what's going to happen. It's happened hundreds of times over and over. This is a waste of your time, my time. I don't want to get my family's hopes up again. I wish they would have just left me there to die.
You know why they put willpower in quotes?
Well, it's like he's a really good guy, right? It's kind of like that. I got the willpower, right? It's not going to happen. Have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. His alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great that we felt his only hope would be through what we then called moral psychology. Again, that's getting good values and ethics, right? The moral psychology. And we doubted if even that would have any effect, right? So if he turned around and he tried to live by the straight and narrow, right? No more lying, cheating, manipulating, stealing. You know, if you can live that way, right? But that probably isn't going to help you either, right? Even the doctors thought that he was hopeless. Okay, so let's highlight the first sentence of the next page. However, he did become sold on the ideas contained in this book. Okay, so next to that, let's write work the steps. Work the steps. He has not had a drink for a great many years. I see him now and then, and he is as fine a specimen of manhood as one could wish to meet. So let's highlight the last 3 lines there. I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray. Okay, so now remember, guys, what we're going to do here by working these steps is we are going to get you that spiritual awakening, that psychic change, and hopefully what we do then is when that happens to us is we go out and we help other people that are hopeless and dying, right? So we're going to make a little note, ask sponsee. We're going to have a lot of those ask sponsees, right? Are you willing to read this book all the way through? This is what you're going to ask your sponsee when you're out there helping somebody in about 3-4 months or sooner. You know, my sponsor, you know, we weren't even done with this, and he had me raise my hand to be a sponsor. You know, and when one guy asked me for help, I mean, I freaked out. You know, and you know, my sponsor said, all you're going to do is you're going to take them through this book. You're going to have them highlight what we highlighted, write what we write. You're going to give them the paperwork you got, and we're going to work the steps just like we did in this thing. And I said, what? What? He said, that's how we sponsor people, by taking them through this book. So you're going to ask your sponsee, are you willing to read this book all the way through? Okay? So end of week 2, but we're not done. We're going to go back to this disease concept of alcoholism. Let's see here. Okay, I missed that, but I don't think we need it. Okay, let's give me a second. So let's look at our sheet again. Let me find my notes, bear with me. Okay, so, guys, you know, I drank for years and years, and the first thing that I wanted to do, right, when I finally said, you know, yeah, I'm getting fired, got it, I got a DWI, I got thrown in jail, something's not right here. The first thing that I tried to do was to control my drinking while drinking, right? So I'm going to the liquor store, and I'm going to get to that liquor store at 9:45, and I'm going to buy me a half pint of liquor, because nobody can get drunk on a half pint of liquor, right? So I'm trying to control my drinking while drinking. Well, we saw when we read the first part about this why that didn't work. I'd have that half pint of liquor, right? And then guess what? The liquor stores are closed, so I got to go to the bar and spend a lot of money because the allergy would kick in. So I tried controlling my drinking while drinking for a long time, and that didn't work, right? So then I, you know, at one point I said that this is killing me. I got to stop. So I went to a doctor and I had him prescribe me Antabuse. I don't know if anybody knows what Antabuse is, but that's a pill that you take, and if you drink on it, you get deathly sick. Deathly sick. So I figured, you know, and I take the Antabuse, and I take it in the morning, and then along about 5 o'clock, I'd like, but you know what I do? I found out that if I mixed whiskey and I did enough cocaine, I would be uncomfortable for about 2.5 hours, but after that 2.5 hours, I could keep drinking. So I would drink on that Antabuse, and I would drink through the sickness, right? So that didn't work, right? So we tried this for me, you know, for several years, and I finally realized, by God, I simply can't drink anymore. I got to quit altogether. I'm going to die. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be broke. This is horrible. So I got to quit. So I tried. The first thing, of course, is willpower. You know, when I was in college, I took a class. I never went to a single class, but I could cram for 12 hours, and I could go take the final, and I could ace it. I could go get jobs. I could sell anything. I got my willpower. I can do anything, right? So I'm gonna attack this alcohol problem with my willpower, right? And I'm never going to take another drink as long as I live, right? And when I said that, and I promised my mother Mom, I'm never going to drink again. I meant it. I'm not going to do it. I willpower, damn it. But you know what? And I believed it, right? So what happens, right? We assume we can do this. The days pass, right? And it's the little things that are going to get us. Our emotions. We're going to go back to this page here, right? We're going to go back to this. Now we're going to go can't quit because of the obsession, right? We looked at the allergy, so we can't quit because of the obsession. So when I first quit, my emotional barometer is kind of at the bottom, right? Because maybe I just got out of jail or something bad happened, and you know, I'm like, I cannot drink because you know, I got the willpower at that point. But the little things in life start to get us, right? You got a nagging girlfriend, a complaining husband, you got screaming kids, you got a mean boss, you get a flat tire, you don't get that raise at work, you burnt bacon, you got your parents are aging and they need care. These emotions, they start to build up, and all of a sudden we remember the ease and comfort that comes with just taking a couple of drinks, just a couple, right? And oh no, I'm not drinking, by God, I'm not drinking. I got it, forget it, I'm not going to drink. More days pass, right? You get up to 90 days, and you're thinking, by God, I'm probably not even an alcoholic. I got 90 days sober. I've been going to a meeting every night to do it, but you know what, man, maybe this is all a mistake, right? I'm not drinking. My emotions continue to build up. They continue to build up, and pretty soon I think that somebody who's been through the crap that I've been through deserves a drink. Now, when your brain tells you that there's nothing wrong with taking that first drink, willpower doesn't do us any good. And our brain fools us. It fools us. It tells us we deserve a drink, and it tells us that we're going to get that ease and comfort that we get, right? So we think about what the alcohol can do for us, and we forget what the alcohol has done to us. And we see nothing wrong with taking that drink. So we forget about the jailhouse, the car wreck, divorce court, hospitals. We forget that we just got fired. And we see only that alcohol is going to give us some ease and comfort. And when that happens, we see nothing wrong with it. Our willpower stops working, and we take that drink, right? So here we are, man. It builds up, and all of a sudden that irritable, discontented, they build up. We take that drink, right? All of a sudden the allergy kicks in. We don't have those enzymes, right? And we take more and more and more and more, and then all of a sudden, you know, you might not have to wake up in jail, but you wake up and you said, my God, I don't know what I did last night. Who did I piss off? What did I do? You know, and we wake up and we're filled with guilt, shame, and remorse, and I can't believe it. That's it. This time it's for real. I'm never going to take another drink. This time I really mean it. And guess what? The emotions start to build up. They start to build up. They start to build up until again we remember that ease and comfort, and our brain says, John, you had better take that drink because you deserve it. And you know what? Nothing's going to happen. And we do this over and over and over, right? So guys, when we work the steps, we cannot do anything about the allergy for alcohol. We are screwed as far as that allergy goes. If we ever take a drink, we're going to get the craving. And that means alcohol. That means NyQuil. NyQuil comes with its own shot glass, by the way. We got to stay away from everything that has alcohol in it, right? So we cannot do anything about the body. We've got to attack this in the mind. That's the only place we can attack this disease is in the mind. So we've got to find a way to be sober without being restless, irritable, and discontented, right? We've got to, because you remember, your chest is tight and everybody pisses you off. We've got to find a way to be sober without being restless, irritable, discontented. We've got to find a way to live and not be filled with guilt, shame, and remorse. Man, I would wake up and my God, what did I do? Oh my God, what did I do? Jesus, look at that dent in my car. Oh my God, what did I say to her? Oh, what did I, we got all this guilt, shame, and remorse. Just maybe, if we can find a way to live where we can have peace of mind, serenity, and happiness, find a way to live sober where we can have that sense of ease and comfort without taking a couple of drinks, find a way to live where I don't need to take a couple of drinks to feel better. That is what recovery is called, right? So we're going to use the program of AA to find peace of mind, serenity, and happiness with no drink or drug, or for me as well, gambling necessary. That is what the steps do for us. Fellowship and meetings alone will not bring this about. the program of action in this book will, right? So I work through the steps, I live by the steps, I practice the steps every day, and that's what we're going to learn how to do at Code Blue. We will expel the obsession to use, and we're going to learn how to become happily and usefully whole. And that's exactly what, when they talk in the book, when they say recovered alcoholics, that's what they're talking about. We still have the allergy, but we don't have the obsession. And again, I don't want you to ever think you're cured from this, right? You know, I got 5 years of sobriety that way, but I got an arm's length this way. So there are certain things that we have to do every day to maintain our spiritual integrity. And if we do that, we're going to be just fine. I think for today, that is it. I guess I handed out paperwork last week that I didn't get to. You got a sheet that talks about the goal of the big book. This road chart to decision, right? This is really funny to me because for 20 years I would do step 1, step 2, and I'd do step 3, right? But then I would never take the turn which, moves on to the 4th step. I would never make a decision to work these steps. I would always go the other direction, which is death and insanity. I did the 3-step shuffle. 1, 2, 3, drink. 1, 2, 3, drink. Over and over again. The first time I went the other direction, and it's all started by going through this book, and then boom, starting on my 4th step, all of a sudden I found a different way to live. So that's what we're going to do here. So. Does anybody have any questions? I probably won't know the answer, but I'll try. No? Okay, so we end every session with the 3rd step prayer, which is located on page... Well, I know it by heart, so I don't even know what page it's on.
63.
63. Page 63. If you can't get on your knee, don't worry about it. 3rd step prayer is in the middle of the page on page 63. God, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Peace. All right, thanks everybody. We got Bill's story next week. We're going to look at it in a whole new light.